Okay, and it really is my honor to introduce Dr. John Trowbridge. He was the first, and I think so far the only, medical doctor who was president of the International Academy of Biological Dentistry and Medicine. He's been a tremendous service to us because we get to talk to an RD. He's a real doctor. For those of you who don't know, John was the author of the book called The Yeast Syndrome. If there's anybody in this room who hasn't read it yet, don't raise your hand. You don't have to get embarrassed.
Raise your hands.
Don't raise your hand. Don't raise your hand. But go out and buy the book right away. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and his latest book, I love this one, The 5 Reasons to Ditch Your Heart Doctor. I think I'm going to write one that says 10 Reasons to Ditch Your Dentist. That's a good idea, right?
Actually, that is coming in the series.
Oh, very good.
Yeah,
That should be part of the series.
Yeah.
Anyway, without much ado, Dr. John Trowbridge.
Thank you. Well, thank you kindly. I kind of consider myself the bridge speaker for this meeting, kind of having been in leadership in both sides of the organization. And I have to tell you which one is more fun, but then I'd have to kill you. So I won't tell you because the dentists have a pretty raucous time, actually. All right, I was asked to talk about mercury, toxicity, and detoxification. In a short lecture, I don't have an all-day thing where I can do details and stuff. I'm really kind of a conceptual sort of guy. And in this, here's a concept. I should read this, shouldn't I?
Yes.
All right, I'm going to read it in German. Jawohl. JD, disclaimer. I do not have any financial interest in a product in my talk or with any companies offering grant monies for the continuing dental and medical education program. However, I do have my eye on a new BMW. And what? Okay, good. Whatever. So what I'd like you to do is, here's a problem that I have when I go to meetings. Incidentally, I'm going to blame air traffic control for my exquisite outfit here, since I was stranded last night in Dulles. In any event, I enjoy listening to speakers and seeing all the reference stuff, and I can't remember a damn thing. And on Monday morning, I can't tell patients, the details of this study or that study or whatever. So I'm a real conceptual kind of guy because that's how people think and work and understand. So when we go through this, kind of think of the concepts, because what I want you to do is understand one of the metals near and dear to my heart, your heart, their heart, your brain, everything else too. The silver scorpion. Anybody ever see a scorpion in real life? Raise your hand. Oh, good. Aren't they intimidating? You know what works great is a glass. You trap them, okay? You trap them and then you slide paper on it and you pick them up and all that good stuff. If you're not careful, that's what can happen. Does that look ugly? Yeah, okay. Think of your brain like that. Does that feel ugly? Okay, because you see, the scorpion has a toxin. You know that toxins are metalloenzymes. You know that part, right? Okay. Halstead back in 1995 published in World Health Organization journal about using chelation therapy to detoxify metalloenzymes. So if you get a spider bite, scorpion bite, any kind of bite, basically, snake, whatever, if you can get it chelated very quick, which could include just direct injection of EDTA, which I would use some lidocaine with it, but anyway, it breaks up the enzyme and you instantly stop the spread, okay? Instantly. Ground recluse, it works awesome. So anyway, the story about the scorpion is that he lived in a jungle and he got tired of looking at the same scenery, so he decided to take a walk to those distant mountains, and he came across a river, and he unfortunately could not swim. He was very talented, okay? He could have pretty colors and whatever, but could not swim, so he goes, how do I get across this river? Well, he encounters a frog. Now, as we all know, frogs are princes, but they're stupid. Well, that's right, princes are stupid. Anyway, so he says to the frog, could I just take a ride on your back and you swim me across the river? And the frog says, oh, that would be silly because you're a scorpion and you would bite me and and you would kill me and we'd both drown. And he says, why would I do that? I want to get to the other side of the river. It made sense to the stupid prince. So he said, fine, I will go ahead and swim you across the river. Whereupon, when they're halfway across, the scorpion stings him, and as they're both going down and drowning, the frog says, Oscar, why'd you do that? Why'd you do that to me? We're both going to drown. The scorpion says, it's in my nature. Now, here's the problem. It's in the nature of Mercury to be the most toxic metal on the planet. When is it not? It's always the most toxic metal on the planet. And we can get all sorts of fancy names and descriptions, and I think the speciation stuff that's going to be coming more and more into our realm is going to be very helpful in maybe getting a bigger picture. But you know what? I'm a big one on compartmentalization in tissues, okay? And yeah, we've got some mercury goes here and some goes there and some comes from here and comes from there. But the whole point is you're the big box. And if it's in you, I can guarantee you it's a scorpion and it is going to bite you. Here's one of the fun ones. Thermometers. You would think if they knew that that was a problem, why would they put it in a thermometer? Well, because they used mercury for treating illnesses in the past, you know. If you could poison the infection before you poison the patient, what a great idea. If. Not always worked out. Major source of exposure is dirty energy stuff, okay? Every time you start burning things, combusting things, you have the potential for getting out very heavy loads of mercury. Well, kind of interesting because look where all that coal stuff is in this country. A lot of it around. But don't worry if it's not near you, because we also have wind patterns. So, those of us who think we're safe obviously have mercury on the brain. Don't forget we have contaminated water. And of course, if there's something in the water, the fish are going to get exposed to it. And that's why it is sadly true that there's so much of our waters where the sign says contaminated fish. Of course, the fish can't read that, so they don't care. But the thing is, why did we do that to ourselves? Because, well, I'll tell you why we did it, okay? Because human greed is bigger than human need to survive, okay? And so when you look at it, it's much quicker to poison an area and make a great deal of profit than it is to not poison an area and figure out what you're going to do instead. And now, and I get a little fiery about this, because there actually is a product that could decontaminate all of those streams and such like that, and I'll mention that at the end. But in the meantime, every time you sit down with tilapia or whatever, I just want you to think. Or if this is unappealing, you could think that instead. Yeah, kind of. Makes you want to eat those fish sticks, doesn't it? Our water supply is just getting nailed by all this stuff. You know, what goes up must come down. So I realize that it's in the air and stuff, but it's going to end up in the land, and then the water, if it ends up in the land, the water will take it down deeper in the land. I was giving a talk, this goes back to 1983. I was giving a talk at my office, and I said, there's lead that has been in the gasoline until 1978 when they forced that removal. Well, and I said, but that gets into all of us and such like that. And I said it even gets into the corn and so on, because it's growing right there as it's being, and right along the super highways, within a few hundred yards, there's a lot of concentration. And one of the fellows in the audience said, well, but they don't feed that corn to us. We don't eat that corn that's concentrated. I said, what do they do with that corn? Because they feed it to the cows. Good. Because cows are bioconcentrators, and we get to eat the cow. Where the heck do you think he got the lead from the gasoline fumes? And so, one of the problems is we get real short-sighted. This is especially true when passing laws. We don't think of the long-term implications. I want you to think that there's no clean food, water, or air, period. And you can see the whole industrial waste thing. Some of these businesses just literally dump waste into a nearby river. In fact, that's why they're located there. And what a way to go, because it doesn't bother them. All right? So think of that. And when your patients come in, where they live might be exceptionally important. I had a lady, this is not a Mercury thing, but she had a real bad problem with yeast and such. And some days she would just get massively sick and such. And we finally figured it out that there was a bakery 6 blocks away from her. And when the wind pattern was this direction, I had to have her start and go in circles around until she finally found what was the noxious thing. Well, you might have to be a little bit of an experimenter to figure that out. And it comes from anywhere. So that's really the problem. Hey, does it come from this place? I would like to announce to you, this is new information, okay? That's safe, according to your federal government. So, I realize that we've had all this stuff about mercury and all this stuff, but it's just not true, okay? It's just not true. Fillings are just like potato chips, but you can't have just one, okay? And tomorrow we're actually going to hear from a dentist who has done some really provocative stuff. Dr. Southward has really looked at, are we maybe barking up the wrong tree on how we understand dental caries and such. I look at his stuff and I think, there's a lot of implications on this just beyond teeth. I'm considering how that might really affect with cavitations and so on. But here's one to really light your fire. Anybody have any of these? Yeah, these are really that, neat little, another law, okay, that we have to follow. You ever break one of these? What'd you do? You're not supposed to vacuum it up. Did you know that? You now have a hazmat problem in your house. And if you vacuum it up, now you have a bigger hazmat problem in your house because the mercury in there can go through and such. So, anybody think of that before? You certainly probably haven't thought of that with regard to your patients. Say, hey, you're going around breaking these bulbs. Whatever. Okay? Thank goodness that they have taken the mercury out of the vaccine. Another of the governmental misrepresentations. With government, you can always think like this, okay? If they say it's safe, it isn't. If they say it's for defense, it's for war. If they say it's for health, it's for illness. If they say it's for life, it's for death. So just think of that. How much mercury is really in a flu shot? Ooh, see the bottom yellow? Damn. Okay, but just remember that all forms of mercury are toxic, and maybe even that massive load coming in the vaccinations there. Anybody think our computers have any mercury in them? Actually, a bunch, okay? Not just the computing boards, but the display screens. Oh boy. Have you seen the toxic waste dumps where there's just all these computer parts and stuff that have just been piled? However, I want you to know that every time that there are threatening clouds, they put a plastic sheet over so that the rain cannot go down through all these parts and take the mercury down into the ground and hence the groundwater. And like I said, no part of the water is safe, no part of the air, no part of the food. Makes you feel like you're just a dead dog. Let's just roll over and say, what the hell? Actually, it turns out that there have been some scientists who've done a study that showed that dogs don't have as much influence from the mercury as we thought they might with their biological system. That means, of course, that people don't have as much influence from the mercury as they might. And you go, you should be dead dogs. But anyway, the misrepresentation in science is too much fun. Have you heard there's one study that shows vitamin E is dangerous and causes cancer, prostate, this, that. Have you heard vitamin C does stuff? Now you have dozens or even more years of clinical experience and studies showing these things, but one comes out and that's news. Great. Okay. Zero mercury is the goal. If you take a look, it's kind of pointing at every organ system on there. In other words, this stuff doesn't go in and just aim at one, it aims at others. Christashi showed an increase of 22,000 times the usual concentration of mercury that they would find in a heart at autopsy in people with an idiopathic cardiomyopathy, unexplained cardiomyopathy, and you go, wait a minute, unexplained? Maybe that's the explanation. See, I have a real simple slogan. Find it now, fix it right. Okay, but if you think this whole toxic metal crap is just that, crap, okay, then you're not going to pay attention to this quackery. You're going to dismiss it. Or, let's say you do pay attention to it, and then you read some study and it says it's really not that bad. Don't worry about it. Because, in the dogs or the rats or the cats or whatever, it was really okay. So it's probably okay in us. And, of course, it's hard to get enough lawyers to volunteer to be in the study. Although, I have issued an open invitation. So the deal is that if you take a look at these things and you don't buy the idea, or you've concluded it's quackery, then you don't look for it. And I can guarantee you what you don't look for, you don't find. And what you don't find, you don't treat. And what you don't treat does not get better. So if there is any situation in which a heavy toxic burden of mercury or other toxic metals is found, and you go, this is in an idiopathic disease condition, play like you're an Aggie, okay? Beat yourself on the head because you just don't get it. Again, I just show these different ones because I want you to see different areas in which these things can come up. And it's all from the environment. We don't naturally make mercury on the inside. And I don't care what other doctors say, but, it actually comes from bioconcentration. From where? Well, from the air, the soil, the water, and then it gets into our food. And, of course, we drink the water and so on. And if you'll take a look at the mercury concentration, we are pretty good bioconcentrators. And that means that's what we're going to suffer from. So don't worry about small amounts of accumulation. The definition of a toxic metal is it comes in easily. It goes out hard. It's slow to go out, very easy to come in. But then it finds sulfurs and a few other things like that, gloms on and just brand new home. No longer homeless. My God, can you imagine floating around on a lake or an ocean or something like that? Could you have heavy metal poisoning and not know it? Have you asked your patients, do you think you might have heavy metal poisoning? Anybody ask? Raise your hand if you've asked your patients. What has been their answer? No? Who asked and a patient said yes? And rare, huh? Yeah. Okay. Why? Because health class in high school was a waste of time. Okay? We were never taught to think in terms of the big picture. Okay? And so people go to organ-specific doctors. I have a problem with my gut. I have a problem with my knee. I have a problem with my memory. I have a problem, skin, whatever. They go to organ-specific doctors rather than reason-specific doctors. What's the reason for this? I say that regular doctors stop asking why about 5 questions too early. Okay? Oh, you've got high blood pressure, antihypertensive, anti-arthritic, anti-pain, whatever. Pretty soon you realize you're going to an anti-doctor. Okay? Because all they do is, you've got A, we do B. You've got A, but where did A come from for you? Why? Maybe your mouth. Okay, good. Remember Hal Huggins started talking about, let's get those teeth out of there, let's get, denture plates in. That's when he got his master's degree and realized that whole plate is a mercury elaborator. Oh my God. First do no harm, and look what we're doing. It's because secret things happen in the past that are convenient and whatever. That's how mercury first got into our teeth, because it was such a good filling product. And, that's how it got into our teeth. Anyway, could it be a missing diagnosis? Tom McGuire says, believe a large percentage of dentists and health professionals do not fully understand the effects of chronic mercury poisoning. The chronic part, remember, goes in easily, comes out slow. Poisoning on overall health, and I'm certain that this lack of awareness has led to chronic mercury poisoning being extraordinarily underdiagnosed. I made an interesting offer several years ago when we had an IABDM meeting in Houston, and I said, I've arranged with Doctor's Data. You pay for the kit, I'll write you the prescription, you pay for the the chelator, and let's just check, if you've got mercury or other toxic metals and stuff. 4 of the attendees, all dentists, 4 of them said, sure, I'd like to do that. Of course, none of them had any mercury toxicity. No. Right. So, let's just assume that a competent health professional makes an appropriate diagnosis of mercury toxicity, which is an excess body burden of mercury. Remember, we all have a body burden of some kind. The question is it excess? Is it causing us a problem? So, let's just get her done. Well, there's a lot of ups and downs on this road of getting the mercury out, okay? It is not a simple thing like strep throat or something else where you go in and you get the treatment and all is well. Remember, first of all, you got to believe it there, find it there, and then decide to fix it there. And then when you tell the patient, and no, your health insurance company does not understand this because they're not health, they're insurance illness companies, okay? And remember, there's a lot of potholes along that way, too, because there's some intolerances to the medications. There's difficulty putting enough of the nutritional support in when you're using chelators and stuff like that. And then in the public, there's all this stuff about, we're going to remove all of your problem. Okay? That's kind of like using RID, we're going to get rid of it. Okay? In fact, it's even promoted. And I like Joe Mercola, but he says Dr. Mercola's protocol for ridding your body of mercury. Anybody ever define the word rid? Get rid of. Okay. For every single one of my chelation patients since 1983 when I started this, I say, look, you want to stop traffic in Houston, you don't have to have a whole lot of interferences. There are pinch points. Just get where these 2 highways intersect and these over here and these over here. 15 accidents will paralyze all the traffic in Houston. That's all you need. I just want to get those 15 zones cleared up inside you. You'll still have toxic mercury, lead, whatever inside you. But we've removed it from being in the road so much so that your life will be better than it could be. Okay? We're not great. We're not getting rid of it. Only thing we're doing is reducing it. That's it. That's all we're doing. That's all we're ever doing. Now, can you get it all out of your mouth? Sure. Okay. Now, if you've got your root canals, you've got to dig deep. But if you just pull all those teeth, I guarantee you it's gone. Okay. If you leave in any of those wonderful gold crowns, guess what's under them? Mercury. Do your patients know that? Do they know that the mercury is trapped underneath the gold? How many people say their patients know that? Hardly any, right? Okay. We had a tooth that, I've had issues and stuff. Well, we decided not to do anything because it didn't feel that badly and stuff. And it got to the point where we needed to go ahead and get that crown off and do something else. And my dentist, an excellent biological dentist, and we had negotiated on this. And by golly, guess what he comes down to? Taking the gold off. Beautiful, shiny, silver scorpion. Okay, now remember the gold is impermeable. It slaps it on, the mercury can only go down, which is in your jaw, which is to your circulation, which is to your body. And you got to remember, Clint Eastwood said, I tried being reasonable, but I didn't like it. And that's kind of my problem about this mercury story. There's a lot of myths about mercury detox, okay? If you talk to people who are not in the know, okay, hey, we can just do some food. All you have to do is just eat right, okay? Because, it'll take the mercury out. You don't need to go to that quackery doctor over there or do any of these kind of funny things there. And indeed, there is a mercury capturing effect in a whole variety of foods. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Now, question comes, remember I was talking about compartmentalization. Does this stuff go in, find your mercury and bring it out? Or does it mostly scavenge mercury in your gut? I honestly don't think that question has been well researched or easily answered. I think to a large extent it's grabbing stuff that would go in, but now it takes it out in your stool. On the other hand, maybe I'm wrong. On the other hand, anybody ever order a BUN test to measure kidney function? Okay, it can be 20 or 21 or 30 or whatever, okay? So I'm curious, is it 20, is it 30, is it 40? And I've got some labs that will report it as 24.2. Yeah? I'm really impressed with that. I just kind of need the first number, really, okay? Because we can get so finely described. So maybe these foods can remove mercury. So I've reduced my mercury burden by 1%. Big deal. Okay? Now, there's all sorts of cocktails that you can do. There's detox juices. And of course, they contain all these natural foods. And these foods really are good scavengers. They detox things because the chemicals in them mostly are loaded with sulfur or selenium. And will grab hold of these kinds of compounds, and if they don't get enticed to let go, then they'll take it out. I'm just not sure. I'm not sure that the home remedies for heavy metal poisoning are as effective as the home remedies for cancer. Because actually, anybody know anybody who's had some pretty good home remedies for cancer? Instead of getting killed by the, slash burn and poison folks? Okay, so I'm just not sure that we've got home remedies. We do have things that I'm pretty sure lower the burden. Cilantro, coriander, parsley, kind of in the same family there. Onion, okay, garlic. Now, if you take a look at the old world, okay, the Greeks, the Italians, and stuff like that, lots of onions, lots of garlic and stuff like that, and parsley and cilantro. They had flavorings in their foods. You know what we have? Butter-flavored popcorn. Okay. Give me a hint now. Is that margarine? Or what? No, it's butter-flavored. And if you take a look, a lot of your foods have flavorings in them. Now, what's that for? Anybody ever buy Morton's salt? Okay, you know when it rains, it pours. You know why it pours? Because it has aluminum in it. Okay? And the aluminum keeps it from concentrating the water so that it can still pour instead of just hang up. But then they add sugar to the salt because the aluminum makes it taste funny. And we wonder why our system is so screwed up. Okay? And so it's because we're not doing the natural foods. There are a bunch of the natural foods. The brassicas, the sulfur vegetables. You can see the Jerusalem artichoke, the asparagus, bok choy, broccoli. Good stuff, tasty stuff. It's not like you have to go and be some ascetic somewhere on a mountaintop. You can actually make very good stuff with this and enjoy it. And the foods that are high in sulfur include meats and fish and, fish, damn it. Scratch that one, okay? And eggs and cheese and cocoa. That can be a problem too. But anyway, if you take a look, sulfur basically equals glutathione. Okay, what you're basically doing is providing raw materials to help your body with the major intracellular antioxidant, okay? Glutathione is a heavy metal defense system, but it is expensive because normally to escort a toxic metal out requires 2 glutathiones to move it out. These are not cheap molecules to build. These are complicated enzymes. Only 3 amino acids, but very complicated biochemically inside your system. And a little harder to get it in orally. So you really got to provide the raw materials. And for those of you who get a little upset about how this lecture is going, I don't think this is funny. and zinc also helps remove mercury. That's kind of a neat thing. Selenium activates the antioxidant enzymes and strengthens your immune system. Whenever you see something deals with the immune system, always remember it deals with the neurological system. They're basically the same, okay? If you want to hear a real weird thing, in my worldview, okay, all the parts of your immune system are just like your eyes and your ears and your taste buds and everything. These are just sensing what's going on in your outside world and reporting, do I have to worry about this? Which is why you've got 80% of your immune system around your gut, because that's where most of the outside world is seen. Okay? And so anything that does something to the immune system is going to benefit my brain. Or anything that damages my immune system is going to damage my brain. And of course, the nice thing about selenium is it prevents dandruff. Well, no, but I mean, that's in the shampoos, okay? And the reason why is because it's discouraging the growth of Malassezia furfur. I love saying that. I always say that. Malassezia furfur is my favorite fungus. And also, other kinds of things that would grow on there. Now, the bonding matters, okay? Metal-to-metal bonds are pretty tough, and metal to non-metal ionic bonds are kind of slippery, and covalent bonds, okay, can be pretty tough. So the thing is, your chemistry is always looking at the positive negative attractions. So the reason we bring this up is because sometimes it's hard to snatch that mercury off where it got. It stuck itself so much up in the corner you can't reach it. Biopolymers can help, and there's a whole variety of those that have been manufactured. Insoluble fibers can help. Those, again, we've heard in other lectures about taking it through. And, of course, what we're doing is also helping to improve our microbiome in our gut. Adsorptive agents are made. Zeolite is one that people have talked about and everything. It seemed to kind of trap things in the channels. I'm a little iffy on that one, but that's okay. Taurine is amino acid. Take a look. We've got a sulfur. We've got a nitrogen. And then there's methionine. Take a look. We've got a sulfur. And we've got a nitrogen. And N-acetylcysteine, we've got a sulfur. We've got a nitrogen. Anybody getting a hint here that these guys kind of start to wrap themselves into a convenient position to grab hold and jerk the mercury as best it can? Remember, if it is solidly in, it ain't coming out. The only way to get it out is like when you change a scientific paradigm. You know how you change a paradigm, right? You present good scientific evidence that the old paradigm is wrong and the new paradigm is right. That is not true. The way you change the scientific paradigm is the old farts die off, and now your paradigm is the one that is promoted. That's how it works. So, sulfur and the nitrogens. Metallothionein, this is a stress protein. And of course, when you're stressed, you want to have as much of your resources available as possible. You want to get the toxic metals isolated, at least out of the pinch points on the highway. Ascorbic acid and vitamin E, these can also work as adjunctives, but you know what? You got to be real careful because a lot of people just want to say, oh, this is the cat's meow. No, I don't think so. Yeah, a lot of things can be the cat's meow, but the cat ain't there. So, SAM, S-adenosylmethionine. Of course, the methionine part is the important part because we've got these things that can literally grab hold of mercury. Remember, mercury comes in different forms, okay? And there's the mercury that is metallic, and then there's the elemental. The organic mercury, if you want to have a fun one with yeast, what happens is you swallow the mercury from your fillings, which isn't terribly toxic until it evaporates and goes to your brain and interferes there. But when you swallow it, that's converted to an organic mercury. Now you've got a toxic problem. So, that's just a fun thing from my history of dealing with yeast. With regard to mercury poisoning, exposures to the elementary inhaled mercury causes tremors, depression, memory loss, and so. Wait a minute. Does that sound like it's neurologic? Well, then we know it's immunologic. Okay? Exposures to inorganic salts of mercury lead to kidney damage. Well, I hope not, but yes. Food substances contaminated by the methyl mercury, that's organic. Okay, you can get real serious stuff long time later, so you can't really pin it down. And people start getting all these things: visual disturbances, paresthesias, ataxia, hearing loss, mental deterioration, tremors, movement disorders. Does this sound like aging? Because see, I think aging is a disease happening one day at a time. And what happens then is we attribute that to, that's due to just aging. Okay, we don't have to look for a cause if we don't think we can treat it. And if you don't have access to something that could take out toxic metals, for God's sake, don't look for it, because you don't know what to do if you found it. You don't even know how to look for it. Well, I'm going to do that Mayo Clinic blood test and see if you've got something there. Really? I haven't been sucking on lead popsicles, so I don't know if you're going to find any lead in my blood. Anyway, lead poisoning, okay. It's the same kind of stuff as mercury poisoning. Think of them as buddies, okay? They are friends. And if one is there, the other's there. And what they have found in the studies done in rats, again, because the attorneys, they did have a group of attorneys, but they wouldn't all show up at the same time. They have found that even though you can establish the lethal dose for, lead and the lethal dose for mercury, and then just give trace amounts, and you kill all of them with just the trace amounts, because the two together are much more damaging than one itself in higher doses. That's all over inside our bodies. Okay, so when you think mercury, you got to think lead. So we think mercury, don't say, we're going to do mercury detoxification on you. No, we're going to do heavy metal reduction. on you. That's the key. Remember total body burden. Anybody ever see Earl Campbell run in football? Oh my Lord. Okay, I mean his thighs literally were this big. Okay? And when Bud Adams got mercury poisoning and fired Bum Phillips for going just below the Super Bowl twice, okay, well then he started trading off all the other players except Earl. So if you wanted to watch Oiler football, it's very simple. Where's the pile on the field? It's dragging a little slower as Earl is dragging 6 or 7 guys on the other team. Piling on. The total body burden is what gets you, okay? It's not like, oh, well, I had an excessive sudden thing. No, it's over time. You get it. Compartmentalization is the key. You might have a very small amount of mercury in exactly the wrong place. So the burden there in that compartment is too much. So when you're having a problem getting a patient better and you don't think it's right, think of the pinch points that I was talking about, okay? If an organ system doesn't seem to be responding, there may be other complementary things that are also needing to be treated. So it's not just the toxic metal things, okay? Acute exposures are dangerous, as you might imagine. Chronic exposures wear you down, okay? Not fun. And, chronic exposures, who's thinking of them? You don't think of them, you're just leading your life. Okay, if something doesn't cause you discomfort or distress, it's not an exposure. You're just leading your life. But those circumstances are the ones. Patients say, well, how are we going to test for this or that or the other? And I go, we're going to put it through the between the ears test. Okay? Because if I get enough information about them, I can finally get the right direction to go. And then that tells me whether or not I'm going to really get concerned or not. In other words, do they have a susceptibility? For some reason, Americans cannot park on a level field without having something to stop their forward progress. However, people just walking across flat asphalt don't normally stumble. But when you put these things out there, there's a higher susceptibility. They're going to stumble. And so what you're looking for is, do we have a gut problem? Do we have other toxic metal problems? Do we have some nutritional deficiencies? What do you have that's complicating this that makes or amplifies the mercury situation? So I guess we get down to the real question. What really works? All right. Anybody want the answer to that? Are you sitting on the edge of your chair, bated breath? Okay, I have to reveal it. I didn't want to put that in there, but I thought, I got to give you the true answer, okay? Professional expertise is the only solution. Your general doctor ain't going to get it. Your organ-specific doctor ain't going to get it. People who have the simple solution are only dealing with simple problems. They're not dealing with complicated problems, honest to God. EDTA does work. It does actually take out mercury, and you will hear people say it doesn't. But it does. I mean, I've done it for years and watched my patients' mercury levels go down, down, down. Okay? EDTA by mouth, that can help prevent the absorption of mercury. The absorption is important because you're reducing part of the source. EDTA rectally, okay? I still have an issue with that because I look at this and go, do I really want to put EDTA, which takes zinc and copper and manganese as well, do I want to put that there in the rectum where SOD, those are 3 key minerals for SOD, do I want to put it there where we know rectal cancers occur? Remember, about 80% of the rectal cancers are within reach of the examining finger. But who does that anymore? We've got blood tests. Remember, we treat tests, not people. Always remember that, okay? And so, do I really want to do that? Because there's been a lot of controversy. I spent about 3 years studying this. I'm real iffy still on that. DMSA works. DMSA is available. DMSA is very safe. Every once in a while, people have reactions to it. Okay, not much. DMPS does work. A little complication, a little bit more difficult to get. There are brands that you can get in this country, not inexpensive. Oh, wait a minute. I want to spend money on redoing my house. One of my friends spent $80,000 and put 2 rooms on his house. But we want to keep the drugs cheap. Okay, that's fine. I always tell them, you're probably at the wrong doctor. But anyway, but then again, we used to have D-penicillamine. I think I've got a slide right here. I do, D-penicillamine. Incredibly inexpensive, very much effective chelator by mouth. And it went off the market, rather suddenly actually. But you can now get it. I bet you didn't know that. Who knew that you could now get it? See, you didn't know that. So this is why you came to this talk. You can now get D-penicillamine. It's about $17,000 for a 3-month supply. Whatever. Alpha-lipoic acid can help. DTPA could have helped. I believe Joe Hickey has some observations on that. DTPA, I actually have some DTPA in my office. Way back when in the 80s, I got designated by Oak Ridge to be one of their first responders should the South Texas nuclear plant explode. And we needed to get radionuclides out. Catch did the studies back in 1961 looking at radionuclides and removing them. These were all brand new toys back then. Chelation was a brand new toy. Radioactive poisoning was a brand new toy and stuff. So they were looking at things. And DTPA is way more effective than EDTA. Guess who has the supplies stockpiled? The government. Okay? Could it be easily provided commercially? Sure. But, we got, regulations and biases. And remember, they have the badges and the guns in the jails. Never forget that part, okay? All right, NBMI. Speaking of the badges and the guns and the jails. Anybody know anything about NBMI? Who knows? Raise your hands. Hey, just a few of you have actually had anything. This is phenomenal stuff. In fact, if you go back and look, you can see all through the internet how this has just made autism just disappear in a whole bunch of kids. Who put it on the internet? Their mommies. Not the folks who made the NBMI. And in order to make sure no good deed goes unpunished, FDA showed up in their offices. You have been promoting this. No, we just have a product and we know it takes out mercury. And so they took all the product, declared it off limits, and now we've been going through the studies very slowly and laboriously. It actually works better than we ever thought it did. You know what they do in Ecuador? Hell, you're in Ecuador, you can't quite make it here because you haven't made it to Central America to cross across the river yet and get all your Social Security benefits. But in order to get your money that you need to survive, you go up in the mountains and you dig dirt and you bring it down and you cook the dirt in your kitchen because you can get it down to gold. Okay? Guess what comes off in that? Mercury. Okay? Think a little mercury toxic. Okay? Who remembers the Mad Hatter? Yeah, the Mad Hatter was mad because of mercury. So if you don't think it has neurologic effects in your brain, think again. Or go buy some good hats. I don't know. So the deal is that the next level of studies was done in Ecuador and it's phenomenal. Okay, you can't get it, but it is phenomenal. The bond it forms with heavy metals such as mercury is claimed to be 1 million times stronger than DMPS or DMSA. Lipid soluble, crosses the blood-brain barrier. Wait a minute, isn't that what we wanted? OSR was the original marketing name for this. Excreted by the liver gallbladder, so there's really not, stressing the kidneys out. Bonded forms with heavy metals are so strong that there's very little reabsorption. And this solves one of the interesting problems. And I went over this quite a bit with Marty Rubin back in the 80s and 90s. We're taking this toxic metal out of us, we bioconcentrated it, and we're peeing it into the toilet. Aren't we then distributing back into the environment? He says, yeah, it's kind of a consideration. At least if you just keep it with you, we bury you. But now you're just sharing it with the rest of us and getting it back into the biocycles. And so NBMI really kind of solves that, and this is the stuff that could actually clean up the rivers and the lakes. It literally could. But remember who has the badges, the guns, and the jails. So, in any event, this thing is incredibly wonderful, and I gave you some information on it. BAL, is, you'll hear this sometimes, exceptionally painful, British anti-leukocyte. It's really kind of an obsolete thing. There's your disulfide bond sitting in there. You can form mercury selenide complexes. Oh, there's one we could do. Thimerosal. Why does thimerosal help protect things from stuff growing in it? Because it's a poison. So let's inject your kids with poisons, right? What do you think? There's ethyl mercury. That's nasty stuff. That's an organic mercury, very highly toxic form. One of the major problems we have in the society, because we're too damn stupid, is how many battery recycle bins have you seen lately? Yeah. Oh, no. You can just take them into the hardware stores and they'll take care of it and all that good stuff and whatever. No, you don't see them. And yet, this is known. It's a simple society thing. We could really concentrate this, or we could even, get stuff out and use it for whatever we want. Don't ask your top doctors and dentists, because they don't know. Okay? They're on top, looking down, but they don't know. Okay? If you want to take a look at the coal deposits all across the world, they're there. If you want to take a look at mercury concentrations in the populations, I'm going to go back and forth on this for a second. Does it look kind of like they're kind of close? Yeah, it does. But here's the one I really like. And we actually did something very nice. IABDM did a lot of sponsoring for the Minamata Convention on Mercury. And they weren't talking dental stuff when they had their first, 4 meetings, Dawn? I think it was 4 meetings, yeah. But they came out with a very strong statement about removing mercury from any consideration in the dental things, because it very simply is mega death. It's benign, it's no big deal, we drill, fill, and bill, the kids are happy, the parents are happy, but what we've done is created heavy metal toxicity for which there is no easy reversal, no easy solution. You have to go to a doctor with professional expertise. You have to be appropriately diagnosed. You have to be appropriately treated. It is not one size fits small. It's everybody is going to take a long term for detoxification, because this stuff insinuates itself everywhere in your body. And over time, you just have to keep up the thing. And people go, how long do I have to do this chelation stuff? And I go, I don't know. How long do you have to breathe? You get tired of breathing? Just stop. Just take a rest. Okay? Tired of eating? Don't. But, everybody has this kind of socialist idea about medicine. Well, I already did this, I did that, or, I paid for this, or it was too expensive, or whatever. Really? Okay, then don't bother taking care of your body. Crush your glasses. See how well you get along without them, okay? Well, how long do you have to keep wearing them? As long as you want to see. And it's just like that with mercury. As long as you want to be able to negotiate and have your world do it. And here's my piece of advice with you, okay? It's very simple. Eat a live frog first thing in the morning. Nothing worse will happen to you the rest of the day. And you can just think of the scorpion and the frog, okay? Here's some useful references. They're in your material there. But they really kind of summarize the management of mercury poisoning and how you really have to enhance that detoxification. You got to get there from here. You got to get that stuff out. Hey, listen, you've been a great audience. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. So I need to take a quick poll. A worthwhile presentation, or would you rather have just all the facts in the journal articles and stuff? Journal articles. Okay, I'll do the journals next time. Thank you kindly. The AGD code is... Wait a minute. I'm sorry, but the Midnight, whoever, or Hulu, or whatever, won the Academy Award instead. So you're wrong.
JP, like John Trowbridge.
That would be me.
1734 M, like Mary.
Like Mary.
JP, 1734 M.
M. Are we out of time?
Yes.